At its height, Alexander's empire stretched from Greece to the edges of India, the largest the world had ever seen.
But after years of endless conquest, his soldiers were exhausted and dangerously close to breaking.
In 324 BCE, at the city of Opis, tensions finally exploded into open revolt.
Veteran troops began to grumble, then to complain, then to openly defy their king.
They demanded to be sent home. For the first time, Alexander's authority was collapsing.
Alexander watched, silent, furious, and calculating his response.
Even his generals could not calm the chaos. The situation was spiraling out of control.
So Alexander made a choice. He would face the mutinous army himself. Before the angry army, Alexander stood alone, ready to speak with the power only he possessed. A heavy silence fell. Every man waited to hear what their king would dare to say.
Alexander began not with anger, but with pride. He reminded them of the glory they had won together.
He spoke of the day he became king, a young man inheriting a nation surrounded by enemies.
Together, they crushed every threat. Thracians, Illyrians, rebels who believed Macedonia would fall. Then came Persia, the greatest empire on earth. And yet, side by side, they shattered it.
They marched across continents, through deserts, mountains, and storms that should have killed them all.
Alexander reminded them. He had bled beside them, starved with them, suffered every hardship they endured.
He painted their victories as one long, unstoppable march of brotherhood and destiny.
Then, his tone hardened. The praise ended. A warning began.
He accused them of ingratitude, of forgetting everything he had sacrificed for them.
Then came the blow. He would release them all and march on with loyal Persians instead.
The army froze. No one expected their king to abandon them.
Panic swept the ranks. What would Macedonia be without Alexander?
He turned his back on them, as if they meant nothing to him anymore.
Suddenly, the mutiny collapsed. Fear replaced.
Veterans who once defied him now knelt, begging to be forgiven. Seeing their surrender, Alexander walked back, calm, controlled, victorious.
And with a single gesture, he forgave them all.
From that moment, Persians and Macedonians served as one army. Old enemies became brothers, unified by Alexander's impossible vision. That night, the camp at Opis glowed with peace, not rebellion.
Alexander spoke of unity, of an empire built by all, not just by Macedonians. He described a world where cultures blended, creating something greater than any nation alone. For the first time, the army truly understood his dream. To seal their unity, Alexander proclaimed a great banquet.
All night, fires burned as Macedonians and Persians prepared the feast together.
At dawn, the banquet began. Thousands celebrating as one united army.
Music of two worlds blended into a single rhythm of victory and peace. Alexander walked among his men, not as a god,
but as their brother in triumph.
The celebration roared on, washing away every trace of rebellion.
In a single night, Alexander turned mutiny into unity and shaped the empire's future.
When dawn broke, the army was calm, united, as Alexander had planned.
Alexander reflected on the night. Victory won not by force, but by words.
In the days that followed, Persians and Macedonians drilled as a single force. Persian officers were elevated to positions once held only by Macedonians.
Many veterans were surprised, but after Opis, none dared oppose it.
Alexander inspected his new army, an empire's army, not a nation's.
Some old commanders still whispered doubts, but none dared voice them.
Alexander declared it openly. A new era for the empire had begun.
But the memory of the Opis mutiny would echo through history forever.
News of Alexander's speech spread quickly across his vast empire. In every city, people whispered of the king who defeated rebellion with words alone. An army of many peoples now marched under a single banner.
Scribes recorded the speech, ensuring its survival for generations.
Philosophers argued whether his actions showed genius or dangerous pride.
Even his generals admitted how close they came to losing control that night.
Alexander wrote to his mother, telling her of the mutiny and its miraculous end.
He trusted Olympias deeply, more than any general or advisor.
With unity restored, Alexander prepared to march toward new horizons. Morale soared. The men trusted their king again, completely. And so, the great army of Alexander marched out of Opis as one. Rumors spread. Alexander was planning yet another grand campaign.
His advisors warned him. The army was unified, but exhausted.
Alexander ignored every warning. His ambition knew no limits. He ordered ships built, planning a vast naval expansion.
All right, bring it down slow.
Watch the timbers on the port side.
We got it, easy now.
He dreamed of a world united under one rule, his own. Persian nobles celebrated, seeing Alexander as a true successor to their kings. But many Macedonians feared the campaign would never end. Alexander summoned his generals to reveal his next great ambition. He unveiled it, the conquest of Arabia, the next frontier of his empire. His generals were stunned. Arabia was vast, deadly, and unknown.
They argued fiercely, insisting the men needed rest, not another conquest. But Alexander countered. Destiny was calling, and Arabia was next. In the end, they surrendered. No one could oppose the king's will. Preparations intensified. Arabia demanded enormous resources. Persian regiments felt honored. Alexander trusted them as equals.
But many Macedonians still doubted the wisdom of this new campaign.
Alexander rallied them, promising triumph beyond imagination.
United once more, the army marched toward the unknown.
Yet something lingered, a shadow even Alexander could not foresee.
Before the Arabian campaign, Alexander returned to the great city of Babylon. Crowds erupted in celebration. Their king had returned in triumph.
In Babylon, he met diplomats from across the empire to secure loyalty.
Alexander began new engineering projects, reshaping Babylon itself.
Night after night, banquets filled the palace with music and celebration.
But behind the glory, Alexander was exhausted.
At one dinner, he drank heavily, more than usual.
That night, a sudden fever struck him without warning.
His guards carried him to his quarters, fear spreading through the palace.
Doctors tried everything, but none understood what was happening. Alexander's fever worsened. His strength began to fade. His generals waited outside, terrified of what his death would mean.
Rumors spread through the palace.
Oh, Alainines.
Whispers of poisoning.
Doctors begged him to rest, but the fever only grew stronger. Ever defiant, he tried to rise, but his body betrayed him. Even his elite guards could do nothing but watch.
Across Babylon, people gathered, fearing their king was dying.
His generals argued violently. Who would rule if Alexander fell?
Inside his chamber, the world's greatest conqueror slipped in and out of consciousness.
Doctors tried every remedy known to Greece and Persia. Nothing worked.
His soldiers begged to see him one last time.
With his final strength, Alexander agreed to be carried before them.
As he passed, every soldier bowed in silent devotion.
Even dying, he lifted his hand, proving he was still their king. The army wept like children. Their immortal leader was fading. After seeing his men, he was returned to his chamber, never to rise again.
His breath grew shallow. The room held its final, trembling silence.
A general asked him, "To whom do you leave your empire?"
To the strongest.
To the strongest. And the world changed forever. Moments later, Alexander the Great took his final breath. Within minutes, The news surged through the palace like wildfire. His generals were paralyzed, unable to believe their king was gone. The royal guard broke into tears, mourning the man they had followed to the ends of the earth. Outside, the armies of the Empire mourned. Their sun had set forever.
All of Babylon fell into mourning, filling the night with flickering lights.
Instantly, his generals clashed, each wanting control of his body.
Priests prepared his body with sacred oils and royal perfumes. He was placed in a golden sarcophagus, fit for the greatest conqueror on earth. Rival factions fought over who would lead his funeral procession. His golden sarcophagus was placed upon a colossal royal chariot. A grand procession formed, thousands escorting their fallen king. His body began the long journey home toward Macedonia. But Ptolemy attacked the convoy, determined to seize the king's body. He succeeded, capturing the sarcophagus and claiming it for Egypt.
The other generals reacted with fury. Civil war now seemed inevitable.
Ptolemy carried Alexander's body to Egypt, to the city that bore his name.
There, in Memphis, the conqueror was placed in a temporary tomb. Later, his body was moved to Alexandria, destined to rest in the city he created. In Alexandria, his tomb became the heart of a new world. People traveled from every land to honor the fallen king. But his generals plunged the empire into brutal wars for power. Alexander's empire shattered into pieces almost overnight.
Each successor claimed to protect his legacy, yet all fought for their own gain.
His family was caught in the chaos,
hunted by those seeking control. The wars of the successors drowned the empire in blood.
Yet his dream lived on, in the rise of Hellenistic culture across the world. His conquests shaped science, art, language, and philosophy for centuries. Alexander died young, but his legend became immortal.
But the speech at Opis remained his greatest act of leadership. For once, victory came not from the sword, but from words.
At Opis, his empire stood on the edge, and he pulled it back. He understood his men's hearts better than any commander alive.
By turning their pride against them, he restored their loyalty.
One man against an army, and the army surrendered to him.
His words made thousands lay down their arms in shame.
For centuries, historians studied this moment, seeking its secret.
Some call it manipulation. Others call it leadership at its peak.
But none deny this truth. He united worlds that once hated each other.
The speech at Opis changed the fate of an empire and of history.
It mixed humility and pride, a balance only Alexander could command.
He dismantled rebellion by turning their own emotions against them. Few leaders would dare confront thousands alone. He did.
And in minutes, fury became regret. Rebellion became loyalty.
That reconciliation saved an army and preserved the empire itself.
Today, leaders still study Opus to understand true authority.
His battles made him famous, but his words made him immortal. Even now, his spirit echoes across continents and centuries.
And many call it the most powerful speech of the ancient world.
Historians still debate every word, every gesture, every silence.
But all agree, Opis was a turning point unlike any other.
The greatest army on Earth had nearly collapsed.
And it was one man's voice that pulled it back from destruction.
Opis proved that words can be stronger than any blade.
That night, enemies became brothers once again.
It was the final moment when Alexander's empire marched as one.
Soon after, fate struck, and the dream began to crumble.
Yet his legacy reshaped nations, cultures, and civilizations.
From east to west, one name still echoes through time.
The speech of Opis. An immortal moment of leadership.
Alexander the Great, conqueror, visionary, and master of men's hearts.
And this was the night he saved an empire with a single speech.